All right. We should be live now. If you have any problems with sound or anything like that, just let me know. This microphone up here. All right, we are good to go. Grab my old line. All right. So sorry, this has been a crazy day. No, I'm not going crazy. It's been a crazy day. Let me specify. um, I moved all of my normal usually Tuesday is my longest day of piano teaching, especially when I don't have a cancellation or anything. So I moved all of my Tuesday lessons, which would be tomorrow, to today. So normally Monday is my day to catch up, all that good stuff. But I moved it because tomorrow is my birthday. So I wanted to have the day to sleep in because if anyone knows me, they know that sleep is one of my love languages. I love my sleep and I love sleeping in. So I wanted to start my birthday out by sleeping in. So I will be 44 tomorrow. I was telling Allie on the way here, I said, I'll be 44, which means that maybe I still have half of my life ahead of me, you know? And she was like, wow, that's crazy because to her, I'm so old at the ripe old age of 44. But she's so funny. All right, let me go share this right now in the Gentle Led Sisters group. Because I know everything's weird with the time today. Hey, Shara. I'm gonna go share this really quickly. If you have not joined the Gentle Led Sisters group, we are up to. Why does it say that? Can I just not post? I don't want to post anonymously. And that's the only option it's giving me. All right, just a second. If you have not joined the group, we are up to almost 465 members in there. It's pretty much a drama-free group. There's not much drama that goes on in there, which I like. Just a lot of moms and wives helping each other out. Okay, I can post fine right here. So weird. It's only giving me not anonymous option on my phone. Okay. So today, I left a post in there. I do want suggestions on topics to do. I don't want to do topics that no one's interested in. I'm obviously in a different season of my life than some of you are. And I have to remind myself that a lot of the topics that I would have really needed as a young mom, it's not something that I normally think of right now because I'm in a different season of my life. I'm in the season of my life where half my kids are raised. I'm getting into the married kid season, hopefully grandkid season soon. So, there's a lot of changes that are taking place. But that season when you have lots of little kids, it's a very nitty-gritty season. I don't ever want to forget what that was like. And so I do want to do topics relevant to my age group that's watching me. And I know a lot of the ones that watch me are younger moms. That being said, I do have some middle-aged moms that are watching me. And I would love to do a show in the near future about perimenopause, going through the early stages of menopause, what to do when your childbearing years are over, different topics like that I would love to do coming up. So yeah, Shara, I need someone to come on and give me traveling trips as well, traveling tips as well with young kids, because the last trip I took did not go very well with young kids. So I need someone to come on and give me some advice. But today I did have a topic suggestion given to me by someone just about anxiety and not so much like contentment, which I think a big part of anxiety, contentment or discontentment plays into, but just basically letting go of things that we cannot control. And this is a lesson I had to learn. I am a type A personality by nature. I am the type of person that likes to be in control of whatever situation I am in. Thus, when I first started flying on airplanes, it was very tough for me because sometimes I would rather just drive because I'm in control of that situation when I'm driving. And, a lot of if I live or die is based off decisions I make behind the wheel. But when it came to flying, riding any other type of transportation, it was really hard for me at first because I did have a sense of lack of control over my circumstances. This flight that we just took to Florida, and the way there, it was the worst turbulence we've ever been in. It was like nonstop turbulence the entire time. I don't think he took the seatbelt sign off one time, and he apologized at the end. He's like, "I'm really sorry. It was kind of a rough ride, but we got caught in two jet streams, I guess." But the whole time I'm in there, I'm just like, Lord, please get us to the destination. Help me not die, even though there's like barely ever plane crashes anymore anywhere. But there's always the chance, I guess. So I am a type A personality, and I had to really learn that I could either live my life in fear, anxiety, and worry, or I could live my life loving my life, enjoying my life, having fun in my life. So, in the world that we live in, people all around us are struggling, and especially wives and moms. We have so much pressure on us, sometimes pressure that's put on us by unrealistic expectations, but then sometimes we worry and fret about things completely out of our control. I struggled with this, especially when I was younger, but as I have aged, I have decided to enjoy life rather than being stressed out all the time over things that I have no control over. As Christian wives and moms, we have to let go of the things that we have no control over and only focus on the things that we do have control over. So, what are some things that we need to let go of, and how do we do this? So, number one, I know for the majority of us, we spend a lot of the time of our life in our home, right? So, for me, one of the biggest things that I really had to learn to let go of was finances. And yes, I still struggle even more, even now with this. Now, I will say part of the reason that I struggled with finances years ago was because I was put in charge of the budget. So, for us, when we were first married, we did not have a working budget. And because of this, we found ourselves getting into debt with credit card, with car payments that were over our head, different things like this. So we did watch Dave Ramsey. We read his books, and then we slowly started digging ourselves out of debt. I can't say that we're perfect now. We do have a house payment, we do have a van payment, and we do have a small amount of credit card debt. Nothing overwhelming, though. We have tried to keep it low, our balance low, but sometimes life happens and bills come up, and it happens, and I'm just not going to stress myself out about that anymore. But we came up with a working budget, which if you are stressed about finances, I can't stress this enough, you do need to have a working budget, something on paper that you can see what your income is coming out and what your bills are going out. And you will be shocked once you start adding up all your Starbucks drinks, all of your eating out expenses, all of your entertainment expenses, just a boba here and a coffee here. You'll be surprised at how much that adds up. That's why when we first started this, we were very strict about taking cash out specifically for those types of things. So like you have a $10 bill that you get to spend on coffee once a week, or you have $25 in your date night fund. I know that's not going to get you far. Maybe two like $5 meals from McDonald's, and you can rent a movie or something. But just obviously have realistic money set aside for those things. But we got ourselves on a working budget, and we had a set amount for everything. And after a while, my husband put me in charge because he didn't quite know like what online bills were being paid. I always paid those. Well, it got to the point where when we started the church, things financially were and still are very tight. So I was getting stressed out. I would literally lay awake in bed every night, wondering how we were going to pay our bills. And you know what? Let me just tell you, every bill has always been paid. Since we started the church, we are not late on bills unless we forget about them, but not intentionally because we don't have the money there. And we have paid every single bill God has provided. And all that worry, now looking back, all those nights that I spent laying awake in bed it was stupid because God provided all of our needs, just like he says in the Bible. Now, I'm not going to do verses, but I highly encourage you, along with the podcast tonight, to go on your own and do a word search of worry and fret and, just concern, any type of word that's like synonymous with worry. Plug that into Google. verses about worrying in the Bible, KJV, verses about fretting in the Bible, KJV, and then do a word search and see what comes up and all the verses where it talks about casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you, about how we're not supposed to worry about food and raiment because God sees the birds and, all these things. So definitely do a word search yourself along with what we're talking about. But I looked back and I realized that instead of just peacefully going to sleep right next to my husband and just having faith and trust in the Lord that he was going to provide our needs, I spent all those nights needlessly worrying and I was ashamed of myself. So I had to come to a point where I told him, I said, he saw the stress and worry that was going on in my life and he decided to take over the budget and he's been in charge of it ever since. So it is so freeing to just completely trust my husband in this area of our life and just I don't have to worry and lay awake thinking, how is this bill going to get paid? I literally tell him, we had a really high electric bill. This is what we need. It's on your plate. And, that's just, I have faith and trust in him that he's going to figure it out. And he always has. Now, I have to definitely help him in this area. I can't be out spending over our budgeted amount. Sometimes I have to get very creative with food and different things like that. But this is why I do things like food banks on Saturday and I try to shop oldie or I try to shop deals because when it comes down to it, sometimes I can skip a week of groceries and that's like $300 added to our budget. That oftentimes covers school that we need to order. That often covers an unexpected bill. So because I am frugal in other areas, it does help out our budget when it's needed. So as wives, we definitely need to help out in that area, not be running up our credit card, not be spending frivolously on Starbucks every day, being an asset to our husband and being frugal with the money that he's out working so hard to provide. We're stay-at-home moms, so let's not, become an unnecessary burden to our husbands by not helping out in this. So even when it comes to repairs, repairs around the house, we can sit around worrying about it, or number one, we can do something and try to help out. I've tried to become pretty handy with things that I do around the house. If something can be fixed, I try to fix it. I do not do it above my pay grade though. So, when my husband busted up the side of the house by dropping, half of a tree on part of our house, I knew that was above my pay grade and there was no way I was figuring that out. So I left that up to him to figure out. When it comes to drywalling, when it comes to things like that, I leave that to him to figure out. But if it comes to a simple fix, then I try to figure that out, but I'm not going to sit around needlessly worrying about it. He's not going to let our house fall into disarray and be completely uninhabitable. So I have faith and trust in him that he can figure out what needs to be done about different things. It's not worth it laying around worrying about the cost of living, our electric bill in winter. This is a big concern for us because we do have extremely pricey electric bills. It's kind of one of those things where we know it's coming though. And because of this, we can prepare, number one, by trying to lower our electric bill. We don't need the house set at 70. I usually keep it around 62 is where I keep it, or 60, sometimes 56 if we're out of the house. So knowing this, and then just knowing that things are going to be lean. So we might need to watch you can be frugal and smart without sitting around obsessing about it, worrying about it all the time, et cetera. So learn to be content. Hello, Chinello. Hello, Barbara. Learn to be content with what you have, pretty up your house, get rid of annoying pests. There's cheap ways to get rid of annoying pests. If you have mice, if you have roaches, I cannot live with either. Now I've learned living in a country home, this has been the worst year for mice, but we have 2 cats and that's why we have 2 cats because we have mice. So my cats are keeping up on top of it. I also lay out mouse traps to catch them, different things like that. So instead of just laying around obsessing about it, I do things about it. I'm very proactive. There are cheap ways to get rid of, if you have roaches or something. I can't live with roaches. And if we had roaches, it would literally drive me insane. So there is diatomaceous earth. Now it will look like flour exploded in your house. for a while, but it will get rid of unwanted pests. It will get rid of ants. It will get rid of roaches. Pretty much every bug that's going to crawl through it, it's going to die, because what it does is it's non-toxic, but it dries out the exoskeleton of whatever bug that crawls through it, and then they just dehydrate and die. So yeah, there are cheap ways to get rid of annoying pests rather than just living with them and driving yourself crazy over them. Because for me, I don't want to live with pests like that. So I'm very proactive when it comes to that. Now, there are different seasons in life. And this specifically is what I was talking about with the one messaging me. She's having a hard time not worrying about seasons to come. But we have to learn in whatsoever season we are to be content, because if you are single and you're just constantly worrying about getting married, worrying about that season of your life, you're not going to be able to enjoy being single. And there are some perks that come with being single. Single men, single ladies can serve God with a lot more than a married woman with 5 children trailing behind her. It's a lot easier to go soul winning. It's a lot easier to be involved in ministries in the church. There's a lot that you can do to serve the Lord when you're single. So take advantage of that season in your life. Then I found that I'll get onto that in a minute. But number one, embrace each season that you're in. Okay, so this kind of goes along with what I'm talking about. So when you have a newborn, don't sit there looking at them, wishing them to not be a newborn anymore. Oh, I can't wait till they talk. Oh, I can't wait till they walk. Oh, I can't wait till they read. Oh, I can't wait till they can write me notes. Oh, I can't wait till they can say I love you. Don't wish each of your kids out of whatever season they're in, because it goes so fast. And I'm seeing this from experience. Newborns are not newborns for very long. They grow up so fast. So definitely embrace that time when they're a newborn. I learned with my later kids that came, I was so stressed out with my first 3 or 4 kids, because I just went right back from being at the hospital to right back into whatever I was doing. I didn't take time to really savor them as newborns. The more kids I had, the more I realized how fast that season goes. And so oftentimes I would just forget about the housework, and I would lay in my bed, nursing my baby and just staring at them and thanking God for the beautiful gift that he had given me. So, newborns are not newborns for like a week. I feel like it's a week and suddenly they're like walking. So, enjoy them when they're newborns. When you have lots of littles and you're just surviving, you know, I know it's tough, and it's hard not to wish them out of that season. It's hard not to wish yourself out of the season. I can't wait until I get to a place where I'm thriving and not just surviving. But we all have that when we have little kids. Sometimes we just have to get through each day, and we just have to survive, and that's okay. Don't mourn what season you're in. Embrace which season you're in, and then look for the blessings that come with that season. Middle school, when it comes to that, by then you've overcome a lot of hurdles. You've overcome the potty training hurdle. You've overcome the teaching to read hurdle, but you're going to have more hurdles that are coming up after middle school. So when they're in middle school, you don't have to worry about teaching them to drive and insurance and, cell phones. And at least for our kids, they don't get cell phones till they drive. So each season has its perks and challenges, but each season also has its blessings that come along with it. So just enjoy every season that you're in. Once they get to the teaching to drive, then you're going to have the dating season. And that's a whole nother season that it lends its busyness. And, I feel like we're in the thick of it. We're like in literally the busiest season of our lives right now, because we've got kids on all ages. So I have a toddler I'm still raising, but then I have a married son and daughter-in-law. And then I've got one about to be married. And then I've got one dating. And then I've got one in the pre-dating state. Not pre-dating. She's not even talking to anyone. I'm just saying it's before she's old enough to date. But she still has her own interests that she does as well. So I've got them on all spectrums. And so if it's not one thing, it's another. If we're not here at a conference, we're chaperoning, we're taking someone out for their birthday, we're at this party, we're doing this. So it's very, very crazy and very, very busy. But I also know that eventually my last kid, Hannah, who's only 4 right now, will be 18, 19, 20 and out of my house. So life is very fast and life is very fleeting. So I've made it a goal not to mourn what season or wish a season would go by faster because I realize that I just need to savor each moment of the season that I'm in. So you can mourn each season that comes to an end, or you can enjoy life. For me, I'm kind of like in the perimenopause, early stages of menopause season, where there's most likely not going to be any more babies. And I can either be miserable right now and mourn. And I think it's okay to mourn something for like a day or two or a week and then just move on. I think it's totally fine. Sometimes as humans, we kind of rush through things and we kind of let things build and then we don't grieve things, especially when it comes to loss. I do think we need to grieve loss more so than most Americans do nowadays. But there's a difference between mourning something and moving on or just perpetually staying in that state of mourning, if you understand what I'm saying. So I could just bemoan the fact that, oh, I'm probably not having any more babies and I miss this so much. And that was my favorite season and blah, blah, blah. But even when it came to pregnancy, I I enjoyed pregnancy as far as like some parts, like feeling the baby move, different things like that. But pregnancy wasn't like my favorite thing. I just liked the end result. I just liked having the baby at the end of it. I often said that if the stork brought me the baby, I could have done it like 20 times. But, pregnancy takes its toll on us and, it kind of destroys our bodies in a lot of ways. So for me, I could sit around mourning the fact that I probably am not going to have more babies, or I could just accept that God is bringing me into another season of life where, I can focus on my health and I don't have to worry about every little thing I put into my body or my vitamins or, just have the worry of growing this human being and being careful when it comes to stuff like that. So for me, I've chosen to just embrace each season while I'm in it, enjoy the pregnancy while I'm in it. But if that door is shut for me now, I'm not going to stay in a perpetual state of mourning that. I enjoyed it to its fullest while I was having babies and pregnant and while I was having my kids and in the, postpartum season of my life. And I feel like, if that is the end, it's the end. And I'm going to fully embrace whatever season comes next, whether that's being a grandma or, just raising the kids left at home. We can either mourn or we can just live life joyfully. And I've chosen to live life joyfully. So, you can mourn when you're single and you get married. Maybe you liked being single and you're mourning now that, your whole life has changed, or even being childless. Maybe you enjoy being married, but God doesn't give you babies for a while. And so you could either be miserable or you could just accept the fact that God hasn't blessed me right now. And my husband and I are going to work on building our relationship together. We don't have kids, so let's go on some missions trips together. We don't have kids, so let's see the world together. We don't have kids, so let's go on a road trip. You know, it's all about perspective and just enjoying what God has given you. Because there's a lot of science around having kids. God does open and close the womb. And oftentimes for some couples, he makes them wait for a while. So, instead of just railing against God and like, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you giving me kids now? And just being unhappy, just accept it and, enjoy it. Enjoy it in whatever way you can. So even when it comes to, enjoying the newborn, and then even when you start seeing them leave your home, with me, it was a little sad. And, I got a little teary-eyed when Tommy drove away. And I don't think I cried at his wedding because it's so joyful. I don't cry at joyful things. I cry at sad things or when I'm really upset about something. So for me, I'm not a crier when it comes to happy things. So I was just overjoyed he's getting married, and um while yes, it was actually harder for me when he went to college than when he got married because going to college was kind of the beginning to the end. Like he wanted to go to college to find a wife, and it happened that he was able to make that work, and she's perfect for him. So it was more like a mixture of like nostalgia and happiness when he drove away to move and start his new life in Clinton, Illinois. Um, you could be a little sad, but it would be silly for me, especially with 7 kids still at home, to just sit around in depression because my oldest moved away. It's not a very great life to live. So even seeing them leave the home, it's just another season. So we can enjoy our adult kids, especially because, when they're doing well, you can enjoy just knowing that you raised a good kid and seeing them make good choices. There's no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. I know I totally butchered that verse, but no greater joy. There isn't. That's one of the greatest joys as a parent, seeing your kids choose the right things, choose to serve the Lord. So it's a different kind of happy than from the first time that you saw them. Life is just all about stages and seasons. And for me, I've just determined the older I get, the more I'm going to enjoy whatever season I'm in. So I don't want to sit around complaining about my life and the lot and what God has given me. I don't want to sit around complaining that, oh, I might not be able to have any more kids. Everyone feels sorry for me. Or, I don't want to sit around complaining about I'll ask for helps and tips on how to get through different seasons, like physically, like menopause symptoms, stuff like that. But I don't want to sit around complaining about it all the time. Pray for me. I feel so terrible today. It's that perimenopause again. That's just not what I want to focus my life on. Every season has its challenges, but it also has its rewards and blessings. Life goes so quickly, so live it to its fullest and don't spend time moping around. It's all about perspective. Say that you have a sick kid and you have to stay home with that child and you can't go to church. Instead of mourning the fact that you don't get to fellowship with your friends and you don't get to talk, just enjoy the time alone at home. Like, especially for those of us that have big families, there's something kind of special sometimes about one kid getting all the attention, and I'm sure they love it too. So you can spend that time to listen to the live stream while you're cuddling your kid, soak up the snuggles, give the hugs and kisses. You can mourn not sitting in service while nursing, or you can look at their little face and enjoy the downtime of just being alone, listening to the preaching while you're nursing. I mean, I can't think of much better than that, personally. Don't constantly wish seasons away. Don't constantly hope that they get older faster and, oh, I can't wait until this is done. Oh, I can't wait until that's done, because soon it will be gone. And it's just going to be you alone with those memories. So how do we not take this worrying, anxiety, letting go of things we can't control into our marriage? Well, you can sit around wishing your husband had different strengths or weaknesses, or you can love the man that God gave you. You can focus on all his flaws, or you can focus on his strengths. You are not married to him. You didn't marry him because you wanted to control him. You married him because you loved him. So just love him. Stop trying to control him. Stop trying to change him. I always think of it this way. How would I feel if my husband was trying to change me? I I wouldn't like that at all, because I am a person who my friends have fully like embraced who I am as a person. And while we might have like slight disagreements sometimes, none of like my best friends are not like, Cassandra, you really need to change this about yourself. And I'm not like that with my best friends either. I'm not like, man, one of my friends was telling me one time that someone asked her, like, why are you so quiet? I wouldn't be able to stand being that quiet. And it's like, because that's a personality God gave me. And so for me, I'm a talker. So that would be like one of my best friends looking at me and being like, why are you such an extrovert? Like, chill. You need to be an introvert, more like me. And that would be silly. And just like I would never look at them and be like, why don't you talk more? We all are different. And for my husband and I try to just accept him the way he is. And his wives, we can gently be like, maybe you should reel it in a little, but we can do it in a gentle way. We don't have to constantly berate him and basically be a harpy, and just constantly just be a odious woman, you know, um, just You married the man because you loved him, not because you wanted to change him. Which one of us goes into marriage thinking, I'm only doing this so I can change him? It's not why we go into marriage. We go into marriage because we love that man that has come into our life and we want to spend the rest of our lives with him. So don't get married and then suddenly turn into this odious woman. Love the man that God gave you. You don't have to sit around worrying all day if he loves you. And I know we're women, sometimes we do. And a lot of that comes down to the books we're reading because books have a very, very skewed view of how men are. Men aren't like us, women. They're not. They don't sit around obsessing, worrying if we love them. They know that when they come home and we're still there, we love them. They know that when they come home and we've made them a meal, we love them. They know when we share our bed with them at night, we love them. They know that when we show them physical affection, we love them. For men, actions speak louder than words. For women, sometimes we make words into speaking louder than actions. And we stop looking at all the things he does for us. When he goes to work every morning for you, he loves you. When he's providing a roof over your head, he loves you. When he comes to bed with you every night, he loves you. When he wants physical affection, he loves you. So, stop sitting around worrying all day if he loves you. Life is not a fairy tale. Life is real and it's tough and it's hard and it's nitty gritty. But life does have wonderful moments sprinkled in here and there. And we just have to enjoy the life that God has given us, fall in love with the life that you have, make the best of the life that you have, make the best of the home that you live in, make the best of the finances that God has given you. Whatever it is in life, make the best of it. It's all about perspective and it's all about enjoying the life that God has given you. Fall in love with it. Do things that make you happy. If it's a coffee in the afternoon, drink a coffee in the afternoon. If it's a book, read a book. If it's a cup of tea, drink a cup of tea. If it's going for a long walk, go on a long walk. For me and my husband, one of the things that makes us happy when we visit places is hiking. We love to hike. So don't sit around bemoaning this life, this fairy tale life that you think you should have. Take the life God has given you and make it a life that you love. And that's just, for me, it's finding joy and simplicity. It's finding joy. One of the reasons that I did all my piano lessons today instead of tomorrow on my birthday is one of the best things in the world I can think of is sleeping in because I love sleep. And I've loved sleep ever since I was a little kid. I love to sleep. So I don't get to sleep in very often, especially on teaching days. So I want to sleep in. And that to me is a wonderful birthday present. It's the simple things. Love him the way that you want to be loved. Don't be a royal nag and saying horrible things and then expect him to be like showering you with kisses and love and affection. Men respond to love, just like we respond to love. So obviously, if our husband is beating us and screaming at us and calling us horrible names, it's going to be very hard for us to respond in a loving way to that. Same as if we are nagging and if we are just a harpy. If you don't know what a harpy is, look it up. It's just a perfect definition of like a horrible woman. So, if we're cussing at him, if we're telling him life would be so much better without him, we never should have married him, if we had to do it over, he's not going to respond well to that. He's not going to be your knight in shining armor when he's hearing things like that. So love him the way that you want to be loved. Realize it's for the long haul. And deep, meaningful relationships happen over a long period of time. This is one thing that I want to get across to the younger women, okay? I know a lot of people look at my marriage and the way that it works and the way it is, and they want that now. But you have to remember that my marriage has been percolating and it's been growing and it's been getting deeper and it's been establishing roots for almost 24 years now. Yes, almost 24 years now. So I always have to think of the date. I always have to think of how old Tommy is, and it's a year past that. So for over 2 decades now, we have been learning each other. We have been loving each other. We have been going through trials. We have been going through blessings. We have been going through high days and we have been going through low days. We have been learning what each other's love languages are. We have been learning what each other's pet peeves are. We have been learning what makes each other happy. And that takes a long time. I feel like it's a huge shock to most brides when they go into marriage because they look at people with marriages like mine and people like the Boyles that are raising great families, the Angels that are raising great families, the DeVries, Pastor Tim DeVries and his wife. They have a great marriage and they're raising great families. And they look at that and they want what's taken 2 decades to create. They want that in like a week, but it's not going to happen in a week. So you have to go into it with the right mindset that this is for life. So a matter of perspective, once again, we have our entire life to figure each other out. We have our entire life to fall in love day after day after day. We have our entire life to get to know each other. We have our entire life to get to date each other, so you got to be really careful with destructive things such as the tongue, words, the mouth. I was just telling Allison on the way over, words are very powerful. And it really bothers me when my kids try to tear each other down with the words because words are hurtful and words are powerful. And I was telling Allie, I was like, to me, words are so important. And I feel like my love language has kind of changed over the years. And I feel like now it might be more along the lines of words of affirmation because one of the ways I show people I love them is by words, whether that's through a note or a text or a post for my kids on their birthday, which they look forward to now, I guess. And they do word counts to see who's the most loved and the most popular in our family. But knowing that they look forward to that makes me happy because I do want to use my words in a way to build up other people. I want to use my words as a way to help other people. I don't want to use my words as a way to tear down people. I want to use my words as a way of promoting truth and justice and goodness and that which is right. I don't want to use my words to be hurtful in any way. So I think for me, words of affirmation is important. So I'm very sensitive to my husband or my kids if they would say something hurtful to me. So because of that, I'm going to strive not to say hurtful things to them, if that makes sense, because I want to be treated the same way. I want to treat them the same way I want to be treated. So, and then don't be mysterious in your marriage. It's going to be really hard for your husband to know how to please you if you're mysterious. So for us, and I have to like put this disclaimer. I'm going to write out like this long disclaimer, like the views on the show are for the hostess only. She is only giving you words of wisdom which have helped her through her life. It does not mean that every word she speaks will be relevant to the situation that you are in living in your home. Your husband is different from her husband. Your life is different from her life. As such, you need to just take everything she says with a grain of salt and realize that she's not telling you to go above your husband, but, not care what he says, not listen to what he says. You listen to your husband and do what works for you, just like she listens to her husband and she does what works for them. I need to put that like long disclaimer in front of every single video because apparently I'm like telling women to usurp their husband's authority, which has never once been uttered on this show. So it's just a bunch of baloney and a bunch of lies. That being said, what I'm telling you is what has worked for us. Okay. So I think most men, though, if you asked them, would you rather your wife be this mysterious creature like in all of the love story books, or would you rather your wife just tell you what she wants? I think most men would say, please, I just want to know what my wife wants, and then they can make us happy. So for me, it works. Don't be mysterious. Just tell your man what you want. And then sitting around thinking about circumstances that are out of your control. And this can do with a few things. Okay, number one, health. I've come a long way in this. My husband still talks about how I'm a hypochondriac, but that was like in my early 20s. I'm not so much like this. I do say Google helps a lot for things that pop up, literally pop up, like the hematoma on my leg last week. I'd never had something like it happen. It was a story about a chicken that flew at me and I turned around and ran into my husband's kayak and got a huge hematoma. Like it was literally raised like that much off my leg. And Google helped me realize that it wasn't life-threatening. I was going to be fine. It's still there, but Google also told me sometimes it takes up a month to heal. So I'm fine. Like I didn't panic, whatever. When I was younger, I think because like my family has they've had a lot of weird diseases and illnesses. Allie's a lot like me now. Allie's like me on steroids. at 14. And I didn't have Google at 14. So if I would have had Google at 14 at Allie's age, I understand why Allie is the way she is. Because she's got my personality 100%. But I used to worry and fret about health. What if I get ALS? Because that's what my dad had. What if I get cancer? Because that's what, Kelly died from. What if I have this weird disease? Well, I learned that worry, number one, can cause a lot of digestive problems and it's not going to help. So you are totally, you're like your health as far as not everything's out of your control. So like you can attempt to be healthy. You can take your vitamins, you can limit the sugar, you can try to eat healthy, you can try to work out and be a healthy weight. Obviously, there's those things that you can do, but sometimes it just comes down to genetics and or some weird random illness that you have no control over. So we can sit around fretting, worrying, am I going to get cancer? Am I going to get ALS? I have chosen, there was some test we could do because my dad had ALS. There was some tests we could do to see if it was genetic, if it was a genetic type of ALS or if it wasn't. We chose not to because I do believe in the mind playing a lot when it comes to illnesses and having a lot of control over things. And I didn't want it in my head that I had this genetic malfunction or whatever. And so I don't think it was genetic based off the fact that he was one of 12 kids and he is the only one who got ALS and died from it. So because of that, I don't feel like it was genetic. I am now tomorrow. I'm turning 44 and that's the age he was when he died. Now to me as a teenager, that seemed ancient. Obviously now that seems so young. So I've now made it to the age that my dad did when he died. But for me, that would just cause unneeded worry in my life. Plus, I don't want to worry for my kids. If it does turn out to be genetic, I don't want that thought in the back of my head that maybe my kids are going to get it. To me, that's worse than me having it. So we've chosen not to get tested for any of that. And that's just something we've decided to do. There might be different areas where you do take proactive steps, like if you're more genetically inclined to cancer, different things like that. I think there's nothing wrong in taking proactive steps, but having a balance and not sitting around just freaking yourself out all the time, having anxiety over, don't worry about things that you can't control. Absolutely, Melody. So, hi, Melody. You're from France. Nice. France is on my bucket list. I'm going to go there one of these days. And I love when I have people that watch me because I will try to meet up with you, to go out to eat or whatever. I did with my friend in London. Shout out to her. We did meet up and eat. It was really fun getting to know her. So yeah, definitely. I'll try to let you know if I visit any place and we can have a meetup. So that's really cool. But yeah, and then even when it comes to things like safety, like plane rides, bus rides, different things like that, you can't sit around worrying and never do anything. Because for me, that would mean I would never get on another plane again. I would never travel anywhere because then you're going to have a miserable life and you only live life one time. So God meant for us to enjoy life. He meant for us to have joy in this life that he gave us. So he doesn't want us sitting around being miserable, worrying, fretting. There's lots of verses about it. So even when it comes to accidents, we can watch our children as best as we can and something still happens. Instead of heaping the guilt on us, instead of sitting around biting our nails, worrying if our kids are going to get in an accident, you just be proactive, watch them. But then if it happens, it happens. Kids are kids. Accidents are going to happen. I almost feel like the times when I've been worried the most, nothing happened. And then when I was completely unexpectedly not expecting it, it happens. Like when Lana almost got her finger cut off. No one could have seen that coming. She had it in the back hinge of the door and Allie shut the door on it and it almost cut it off. It was like hanging by a thread. I had to call the ambulance because my husband wasn't home. It was terrible. They had to stitch it back on. Thankfully, even her nail grew back. Her finger looks a little different because the nail bed is further back than her other nail beds. It's weird. It kind of got messed up a little bit in that aspect. But when Jason fell and broke his wrist, no idea that was coming. All the weird things that have happened, I wasn't prepared for it. All the times I just knew something was going to happen, it didn't happen, which just shows that worrying about it was completely fruitless, you know? So, um, but yeah. And then lastly, no, this is not last, but it's this last thing to just kind of throw out there of things that we need to just let go of and not worry about is others' perception of you. Now, for this kind of holds more true because I do have a public platform. I am opinionated about things. I do believe in standing up for truth, justice, and all that's good. And so if I see something that I believe is unbiblical or going against God's word, I'm going to stand for what I believe is right, especially when it comes to the area of the home and relationships and different things like that. So just remember that those who are closest to you matter the most. All right. Social media is a farce. And I love my social media friends. And it's really awesome, Angeli, when I get to meet my social media friends in real life. Finally, I got to meet her in Florida and spend some time with her. But you can pretty much portray whatever image on social media you want to portray. Influencers are actually, it's pretty lame. Because most influencers, we're just putting out a persona out there that we want you to believe in, and we're putting out only the good face. Now, I've tried not to do this. I've tried to be pretty real and honest in what I talk about. Like if I'm having a crazy week, like when I went to Arkansas, I like to share that you're not alone. I had a crazy week too. And then, of course, I'm mocked from a pulpit saying, if you're going crazy, why are you even doing a podcast? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that only those who just had everything perfectly in line could do podcasts. But no, that's not what this podcast is for. This podcast is to encourage women in the day-to-day life. And I'm sorry, sometimes being a mom drives you crazy. There's no other way around that. I have never met a mom with a lot of kids who was completely sane in every way and never had a bad moment, never had a stressful moment, never had a chaotic moment. That is not real life. Now, some social media influencers might try to put that out there, but the truth comes out eventually. Just saying, the truth comes out. And I have never tried to hide the fact that life in the McMurtry home is chaos all the time. It's loud, it's messy, it's chaotic, but my kids love me and I love my kids. And yes, we have stressful moments, we have bad moments, but our good moments far outweigh those. And that's what I want in my kids' life. I want the good moments to far outweigh the stressful moments. So, look at who's saying stuff about you. Railers to me don't matter. If there's someone out there who's just trying to, just this past Wednesday, someone else preached against me. It honestly makes us laugh now because it's so far from the truth. And they're just trying so hard to push this agenda of the McMurtries are like these clowns and evil people. But everyone that has a normal working brain is sitting there and especially knows us in real life. Like I just spent a week with the revival ladies, and our friends, the Boyles and stuff. Everyone that knows us in real life is like, you guys are nuts. You guys are crazy. Like they know our kids and they see our relationship with our kids and they're like, what are you even talking about? You're literally just making stuff up. And they are. They're literally just making stuff up. So to me, railers don't matter. People who are just trying to nitpick my physical flaws, nitpick, just a tiny difference in a belief, whether that comes to natural family planning or whether that comes to, cutting off corporal punishment at a certain age. When they're just nitpicking the physical aspect of me instead of focusing on their issues with me, which the real issue is that I stood against something that I think is unbiblical, which is domestic abuse. That's the issue. No one's talking about that. No one's talking about what I'm standing against. They're just wanting to nitpick little things that might have a little bit of different from what they're trying to promote. So railers don't matter. Let your fruit speak for itself. The truth always comes out in the end, and that's what's happening. The truth comes out in the end. People see the fruit. People who know you in real life, people who see your family, people who see your kids, people who hear your kids talk about you, people who see the way you interact with your kids, the truth comes out in the end. And truth is always revealed, always. So consider the source of who's saying what. And when I was younger growing up, I always heard all this stuff being preached about how your testimony is forever. And like once that testimony is out there, there's no taking it back. Do you know how many apologies we've had in the last few months because people have realized that the perception of us being put out there was completely false? And years ago, this started happening where people were trying to plant things in people's minds about us being a certain way or, acting a certain way or believing a certain way. And we've had so many apologies. And while that is a little like, it brings a sense of validation, like, thank you, finally, you see the truth or whatever. When I first started my platform, having a platform, I was worried about that. Like I was so worried about what people thought about me or what people said about me. Well, now I can tell you that God's really worked on me in this area because honestly now the only thing that matters to me is what my husband thinks about me, what my kids think about me, what my church thinks about me, what my friends that I have in real life think about me. That's all that matters. I have literally been preached about so many times. I've lost count. And it's always over really like they either lie about me, they call me unattractive and pick on my physical features, or they highly exaggerate something that I've said, or they focus on something that's like a tiny minute different than what they believe. And so it's hilarious at this point how they're grasping for straws. It's literally hilarious. And it just shows their heart, to be honest. So, but yeah, that being said, it does not matter to me what the perception of me out there is. As hard as some people want to destroy my testimony, say she's not this way or she's that way, my fruit speaks for itself. So it's not important to me anymore what the haters think, honestly. So live your life joyfully. For me, this is what I have chosen to do. I laughed so hard last week at Revival. You have to go read my Powerful Woman post if you're one of my friends on Facebook. And it's too hard to explain, but there's a man there, Damone. And if you saw Damone, you know what I'm talking about. He's from the Bahamas and he's one of the ushers. And I literally have not, it was so good for me. That week was so good for me because I literally have not laughed that hard in like years. Just you just have to know him. I mean, Damone just made the whole week for me because he's so funny. He has a powerful woman list, which he basically puts women's names on there of women that have like crossed him, like said, no, Damone, we're not doing this. Or Miss Robin was on the list. Miss Robin, who's literally like the quietest, meekest, most sweetest woman alive. She was on the list. She was on the powerful woman list. So anyways, it's turned into this huge thing at their church. It's hilarious. And Brittany Boyle and I were talking to him about it. And I literally have not laughed that long and so long. And it's so true. Medicine to our soul is laughter. Laughter is medicine to our soul. And God wants us to laugh. God wants us to have fun with things. He doesn't want us to take ourselves so seriously. But basically, the whole thing was I wanted to be on the Powerful Woman list because I'm obviously powerful because I keep getting preached about from all these pulpits. And he kept telling me, no, you're too nice. I can't put you on the list because you're too nice. See, someone in real life thinks I'm nice. And I am nice, like to people. I just like to smile and I like to talk and I like to laugh and I'm outgoing and I like to have fun. So I thought it was hilarious that someone who like was around me for a week in real life, I was too nice to be on the Powerful Woman list. I think he just needs to name it like the Mean Lady list because that was like what he was thinking of the women he was putting on there. That's why he kept saying, why you want on that list? It not make sense. It's a bad list. I was like, no, it's a good list. I know I'm being too nice. And then I thought maybe I could make him banana bread because he loves banana bread. But that would defeat the purpose because then I'd be even too nice to go on the list. So Amanda came up with the brilliant idea of I make banana bread, but then I give it to someone else in front of him and not to him. But I can't be that mean. See, that goes against, I can't be that mean. That was a brilliant idea. I think that would get me on the list, but I just can't bring myself to be that mean. So anyways, laughter is good for you. Live life joyfully. Laughter is important. Relationships are important. I can't stress this enough. Others are important. Why are we in this whole ministry thing if we don't care about relationships? If we couldn't care less how our relationships with our husband are, we couldn't care less how our relationships with our kids are, we couldn't care less how our relationships with other Christians are. There's so many verses in the Bible that talk about loving each other, putting up with each other. And if we can't even show the world what it is to love each other, why in the world do they think we have any love for them? When we're out soul winning and we're trying to win souls. Side gigs are not important in the grand scheme of things. I have it set up so that we are not reliant on my piano lesson income at all. So if something came up and it became too overwhelming for me, my family is more important. And I'm going to put that on hold. I'm going to take a break. In fact, I do take a break. In the summer, I take 3 months off. Because to me, making memories in the summer, going to camps with my kids, going to retreats, spending time with my kids, that's more important to me than making side income. So side gigs are not important in the grand scheme of things. Your kids and your husband and your home are the most important thing. The fruit of your home is the most important thing. Raising children to love and honor God, that's the most important thing. What your husband thinks of you is the second most important, is what your husband thinks of you. Your husband and your relationship is the number one most important relationship here on earth, earthly speaking. So you need to cultivate that. You need to take care of that. You need to tend to that. You need to be the wife that your husband needs. It doesn't matter what others think. It doesn't matter what others are saying. You and your husband, that's all that matters. What your kids think of you, that's the second most important relationship. If something is off in your relationship with your kids, fix it, because that is a lifelong relationship. And if you want to have anything to do with your grandkids, you need to be on top of that. I'm saying this as someone who has 4 adult kids now. Okay. So what your church thinks of you is probably around number 3 or number 4. What your friends think of you. You need to live with no regrets, and that means living joyfully, living intentionally, living without worry and stress and anxiety. Give all this stuff up to the Lord. The Lord sees you. He cares about you. Take your problems to him, not the internet. Take your problems to him, not another Facebook post. Mend your relationships. Don't air out your dirty laundry online if you have a problem with, something. I've never aired out a time when my husband and I have disagreements. I've never aired out. There's always issues to work through. I have 8 kids. There's always going to be some little area I've got to tweak or something I've got to work on. But those relationships are so important to me, so I'm going to work on them. Love freely. Love your husband freely without worrying. Love your kids freely without worrying. Love your friends freely without worrying that they're going to turn on you. Love your church freely without the worry. We've often been told that someone was just trying to protect us from someone else. And we told that we don't need your protection. We're going to be close with whoever wants to be close to us. We're not going to sit around worrying that they're or doing statement analysis, on all their comments on Facebook, or saving all these screenshots and having screenshots files. We're not going to sit around completely paranoid and distrusting everyone that comes along in our path. It's stupid, first of all. And chances are no one's out to get you. Chances are they're not using you. Oftentimes the way that you are thinking of others is your projection. Okay. So if someone's constantly saying they're just using me, because they use people, if someone's constantly saying they're spying on me, they think the worst of me, it's because they think the worst of someone, or they're spying on someone or trying to collect screenshots or something. It's so dumb. So just love freely. My husband and I have often said we would rather not put our guard up and just love people and be hurt in the process than create a bubble where it's just us in our bubble and no one else and never be hurt. So we would rather just be hurt, and hurt is going to come. Hurt is going to come in relationships. It's going to come in church relationships. It's going to come in friendships, but just deal with that hurt and move on. And don't shut yourself off from everyone else with the fear that you're going to be hurt, because hurts are going to happen, but it's more important to love and to love deeply and to have that love than never have loved at all. So that's my opinion on it. like I said, take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to listen to me. But it's working for me. So I thought I'd pass that along. But anyway, yeah, sure. I didn't even see your comment about projecting, but it's so true. She said, I've learned to step back and realize many times people are projecting and not to take it personally as I have in the past. And then she said, I remember someone trying to claim something years ago and you've proven them wrong. I know you've proven a lot of people wrong lately, but it is what it is. The truth always comes out. Truth always prevails. And we've said that for years. Back when attacks online started happening with us, we said that. We said truth always prevails. Sometimes you just have to be patient. And sometimes you just have to wait for the fruit to be shown. And then the key is when it is shown, taking the right steps after that, after you've seen the fruit. So I agree, Melody. This crazy world teaches love thyself first and foremost. This is absolute opposite of God's wisdom and his teaching. And you know what? When you love others, that's going to come back on you in a good way. So if you only think of yourself and you're selfish and it's all about me and staying in my protected bubble and what can I get? What can I get from others? Then that's going to come back on you too. And at the end of life, it's going to be you all by yourself. And I would rather live life freely, live life deeply, and love many people along the way. So that's just kind of how we've chosen to do it. But anyways, I'm trying to think of next week. I think next week is going to be normal schedule. So for the next 3 weeks, it shall be next 4 weeks, I think. There's only 1 week, or actually there's 1 week coming up where I will be gone on a Monday. So I might have to do it on Tuesday that week, but we'll see what happens. Have a great week, ladies. Go home. Or you're probably already home watching this. Love your husband, love your kids, love the life that God has given you, and stop worrying about all the unnecessary things that come up. Let go of the things which you have no control over and just focus on the things that you do have control over. And that is your relationship with your husband, your relationship with your kids, and your relationship with the Lord. So we'll see you next week. All righty. Goodbye.